Listen carefully. Destiny is not a random journey. It is a divine assignment tied to purpose, timing, and alignment. That every destiny is designed with intention, but not every destiny unfolds without resistance. There are forces that contend with purpose, systems that delay fulfillment and decisions, both ours and others, that interrupt momentum. Yet hear this truth clearly: interruption is not termination. There are moments in life when restoration becomes urgent, not because God has failed, but because alignment has been compromised. And when alignment must be restored, heaven often demands separation, focus, then sacrifice. The hours between midnight and early morning are not magical, but they are significant. They are hours when distractions are minimized, human activity is reduced, and spiritual sensitivity is heightened. These are moments when the soul is quieter and the spirit is more alert. Throughout history, moments of transition, judgment, and restoration have been initiated in such hours, not because time controls God, but because posture controls access. Destiny restoration is not emotional recovery, it is legal recovery. It involves reclaiming authority, repositioning purpose, and reauthorizing what was paused. Many people want restoration without confrontation, but restoration requires truth. It requires acknowledging where alignment was lost, where focus was broken, and where obedience was delayed. Some destinies were not destroyed, they were simply abandoned under pressure. Others were exchanged unknowingly for convenience, fear, or survival. And some were attacked because they carried weight. The influence and consequence, the intensity of resistance often reflects the value of what is being resisted. Hear this. Destiny does not expire because of delay. What expires is access, not assignment, and access can be restored. But restoration demands intention. Casual prayers do not correct serious misalignments. Restoration prayers must be precise, honest, and authoritative. They must go beyond asking for blessings and confront foundations. This is why certain prayers must be prayed in seasons of separation, when comfort is interrupted and attention is undivided. Between those hours, you are not trying to impress God. You are presenting yourself. You are saying, I value alignment more than sleep. I value purpose more than convenience. I value destiny more than routine. This posture matters. Destiny restoration also requires surrender. God does not restore what will be mishandled again. Patterns must be broken. Associations must be reviewed. Priorities must be reordered. Restoration is not returning to where you were. It is returning to where you should have been with greater clarity. Some people want God to restore outcomes without restoring discipline. Others want restoration without accountability. But destiny responds to order. When order is restored, favor follows. When posture is corrected, access is reopened. There are destinies listening that have been paused by fear, others by offense, others by disobedience, masked as wisdom, and some by fatigue. Weariness has silenced many assignments, but weariness does not disqualify. It signals the need for renewal. This prayer is not about shouting at darkness. It is about realigning with light. Darkness loses authority when alignment is restored. What had legal access through ignorance loses influence through understanding. When restoration begins, it often starts internally before it manifests externally. Peace returns, clarity sharpens, desire is purified. Then systems begin to respond. Opportunities reappear. Helpers resurface. Momentum resumes. Do not expect restoration to look like the past. God does not recycle seasons, He redeems them. What returns will be refined, strengthened, and clarified if you approach this moment with honesty, humility, and faith. Come, do not be surprised when progress accelerates. Do not be shocked when lost years begin to recover in compressed seasons. Come, do not question it when things begin to realign quickly, because when destiny is restored, it does not announce itself loudly, it moves decisively. And when alignment is complete, resistance loses its voice, delay loses its justification, and purpose resumes its course. The spiritual significance of the midnight watch is rooted in both the nature of time and the posture of the human soul during moments of deep stillness. Midnight is not simply a numerical point on the clock, it represents a boundary between cycles, a moment when one day fully closes and another has not yet taken form. Boundaries are powerful because they are moments of redefinition. At boundaries, authority can shift, patterns can be interrupted, and directions can be altered. Spiritually, moments of transition carry heightened sensitivity because systems are less rigid and outcomes are more impressionable. During the midnight hours, the natural world slows down, human activity decreases, communication quiets, and the constant stimulation that dominates daytime life fades. This reduction of external noise has a profound effect on inner awareness. The mind, no longer overwhelmed by tasks, their expectations and interactions, becomes more receptive, thoughts settle, defenses weaken, the heart becomes more honest. This is not because night itself is holy, but because stillness removes competition. When distractions lose their grip, perception sharpens. Midnight is also significant because it confronts comfort. Choosing to be awake when the body prefers rest is a deliberate act of sacrifice. Sacrifice is not about suffering, it is about value. What a person is willing to inconvenience themselves for reveals what they truly prioritize. When someone intentionally engages God during these hours, they are making a statement that alignment matters more than ease. This decision carries spiritual weight because it demonstrates seriousness and intentionality, two qualities that position the heart for transformation. Another important dimension of the midnight watch is vulnerability. During the day, people are often guarded. They perform roles, manage impressions, and suppress uncomfortable thoughts in order to function. At night, especially during the deep hours, these structures weaken, buried questions surface, long-standing frustrations rise, unresolved fears make themselves known. This vulnerability is not a liability, it is access. Restoration requires honesty, and honesty flows more naturally when performance is removed. The midnight watch also has significance because of focus. Daytime prayer is often sincere but fragmented. Responsibilities interrupt concentration, and the mind is pulled in multiple directions. Midnight offers undivided attention. When attention is unified, intention becomes sharper. When intention sharpens, prayer becomes precise. Precision increases effectiveness because it addresses root issues rather than surface symptoms. What is vague produces vague results. What is focused produces targeted outcomes. Spiritually, midnight is associated with alertness rather than passivity. While the body rests, the spirit can remain active. This contrast between physical stillness and spiritual engagement heightens discernment. Many people report increased clarity, insight, and sensitivity during these hours. Decisions that felt confusing during the day often become clear at night, not because new information appears, but because interference is reduced. The spirit hears more clearly when the noise quiets. Midnight also represents confrontation with hidden patterns. Daylight favors what is visible, controlled, and rehearsed. Night exposes what operates quietly beneath routine, patterns of thought, cycles of behavior, and internal conflicts that are easy to ignore during the day surface in the stillness. This exposure is essential for restoration. What remains hidden cannot be corrected. Midnight creates an environment where exposure happens naturally without pressure or performance. Another reason the midnight watch is significant is its relationship with beginnings. Midnight marks the official start of a new day. What is established at the beginning of a cycle often influences what unfolds within it. Engaging spiritually at this moment is an act of intentional governance. That it is a refusal to allow yesterday's residue to dictate tomorrow's outcomes. It is a declaration that the coming hours will be shaped consciously rather than passively. The midnight watch also disrupts patterns. Many negative cycles are sustained by routine and predictability. When routines are interrupted, systems weaken. Waking at midnight challenges both natural soul and spiritual cycles that thrive on consistency without awareness. This disruption creates openings. Breakthrough often begins with interruption before it manifests as change. What is interrupted loses its grip over time. There is also a dimension of discipline attached to the midnight watch. Discipline is alignment maintained beyond emotion. That choosing consistency in inconvenient hours trains the inner life to respond to conviction rather than impulse. This discipline does not remain isolated to prayer. It influences decision-making, focus, and resilience throughout daily life. The ability to delay comfort for alignment strengthens capacity for responsibility and stewardship. Midnight engagement also reshapes one's relationship with time. Time is often treated as something to survive rather than steward. Engaging the midnight watch teaches that time can be governed intentionally. It cultivates awareness that moments are not equal in sensitivity or impact. Some moments require less activity and more attentiveness. Midnight offers that space naturally. Another subtle aspect of the midnight watch is isolation. These hours are often solitary. Solitude removes external validation and comparison. Without an audience, sincerity increases. Motivation becomes clearer. The absence of visibility purifies intention. What is done in isolation reveals what is truly valued. Not what is socially reinforced. Midnight prayer also fosters patience. Waiting through silence, stillness, and fatigue develops endurance. This endurance is essential for restoration because restoration is rarely instant. It unfolds through layers of correction, adjustment, and realignment. Patience developed in the midnight watch prepares the heart to sustain progress when momentum returns. The midnight watch is not powerful because it is mysterious, but because it creates alignment. It aligns attention, vulnerability, discipline, focus, and intentionality in one quiet moment. In that alignment, resistance weakens, clarity increases, and access expands, allowing correction, instruction, and restoration to begin reshaping destiny at its roots rather than its surface. Restoration as a legal recovery means understanding that destiny losses are not always emotional experiences, but authorized outcomes that must be confronted with understanding rather than sentiment. Many people interpret loss only through pain, regret, or disappointment, but in spiritual realities, loss often persists because something has been permitted, whether consciously or unconsciously. Restoration, therefore, is not merely about comfort or healing. It is about reclaiming what was forfeited, stolen, delayed, or misaligned by addressing the legal grounds on which that loss occurred. In legal systems, recovery does not begin with emotion. It begins with identification. Something must be clearly defined as lost, misappropriated, or withheld unjustly. In the same way, destiny restoration requires clarity. Vague prayers produce vague outcomes. A person must understand what was interrupted, when alignment shifted, and how access was compromised. This does not require self-condemnation, but it does require honesty. The restoration cannot occur in denial. What is not acknowledged cannot be reclaimed. Legal recovery also involves ownership. One cannot recover what they do not recognize as theirs. Many people lose ground in destiny because they gradually disconnect from identity. Fear, comparison, disappointment, or repeated failure can erode the sense of calling. When identity weakens, authority weakens. Restoration as a legal process begins with re-establishing ownership of purpose. This ownership is not pride, that it is responsibility. What is owned can be defended. What is abandoned can be taken. Another critical element of legal restoration is jurisdiction. Every loss occurs within a context. Some losses are personal, others are relational, environmental, or generational. Understanding jurisdiction prevents misdirected effort. Fighting the wrong battle wastes energy. Restoration prayer must be directed at the correct level. Some issues require personal repentance. Others require boundary correction. Others require confrontation of patterns that extend beyond individual behavior. Precision in jurisdiction increases effectiveness. Legal recovery also involves addressing agreements. Agreements are not always verbal. They can be behavioral or internal. Repeated fear can become an agreement. Chronic compromise can become an agreement. Silence in the face of injustice can become an agreement. These agreements create access points. Restoration requires the cancellation of these permissions. Until agreements are revoked, recovery remains partial. This is why restoration prayers often include renunciation and realignment. One must consciously withdraw consent from what was previously tolerated. Timing is another aspect of legal restoration. In legal matters, statutes, windows, and seasons affect outcomes. Spiritually, timing determines when recovery can be enforced. Some restorations are delayed not because they are denied, but because prerequisites are incomplete. Character, capacity, or alignment may still be developing. Legal restoration respects timing. It does not force outcomes prematurely. It ensures that when recovery occurs, it is sustainable. Legal restoration also involves evidence. In courts, claims are supported by documentation. Spiritually, evidence is often rooted in promise, assignment, or covenant. Their restoration prayer does not argue from emotion, but from authorization. It appeals to what was intended, not merely what was experienced. This shift changes posture. Instead of pleading for mercy alone, the individual stands on legitimacy. This posture carries authority. Another dimension of legal recovery is enforcement. Winning a case does not automatically guarantee immediate experience of justice. That enforcement ensures that the verdict is implemented. In spiritual terms, enforcement requires persistence and consistency. Restoration is not always instant. Resistance may continue until enforcement is complete. Understanding this prevents discouragement. Resistance does not mean recovery fade. It often means enforcement is in progress. Legal recovery also demands accountability. Restoration does not excuse irresponsibility, it corrects it. When something is restored, stewardship is expected. What is recovered must be guarded. Patterns that led to loss must be addressed. Restoration that does not include accountability often results in repeated loss. Legal restoration is thorough because it seeks permanence, not temporary relief. There is also a relational dimension to legal restoration. Some losses involve people influence or access that must be re-navigated wisely. Restoration does not always mean returning to the same structures or relationships. Sometimes it means recovering purpose in a new context. Legal recovery focuses on essence rather than form. What matters is that the core assignment is restored, even if the expression evolves. Restoration as a legal recovery also redefines patience. Patience is not passivity, it is confidence in process. Legal systems move deliberately. Haste can compromise outcomes. Spiritually, that patience allows alignment to complete its work. Rushing restoration often leads to fragile results. Legal recovery values stability over speed, even when acceleration is desired. Another important aspect is responsibility for participation. Legal recovery is not outsourced entirely to God. The individual must cooperate. Instructions may follow restoration prayers. Changes may be required. Obedience becomes part of enforcement. Ignoring these steps weakens outcomes. Restoration is a partnership between divine authority and human alignment. Understanding restoration as a legal recovery transforms expectation. Instead of hoping vaguely for improvement, one anticipates structured change. Instead of fearing loss, one understands recovery. Instead of emotional exhaustion, there is strategic persistence. This understanding removes helplessness and replaces it with clarity. Positioning the heart to reclaim destiny with confidence, precision, and sustained alignment. Destiny can be interrupted but not erased, because destiny originates from purpose, not from circumstance. Purpose is established before conditions arise, which means conditions cannot cancel what they did not create. Interruption occurs within time, but destiny is rooted beyond time. This is why setbacks, delays, failures, and then detours can affect expression without eliminating assignment. Many people confuse interruption with cancellation because they evaluate destiny by visible progress rather than by origin. When progress slows or reverses, they assume purpose has ended, not realizing that purpose is preserved even when expression is paused. Interruption often begins subtly. It rarely announces itself dramatically. It starts with small compromises, gradual distractions, unresolved wounds, or repeated fear-based decisions. These moments do not erase destiny, but they weaken momentum. Over time, weakened momentum creates distance from original direction. This distance can feel like loss, but it is more accurately described as misalignment. Destiny does not disappear, access to it becomes blurred. There are also interruptions that are external rather than internal. These include betrayal, systemic limitations, unexpected responsibilities, or environments that restrict growth. External interruptions are often more painful because they feel unjust. They can cause confusion and resentment, leading people to abandon purpose prematurely. However, injustice does not negate destiny. It only challenges endurance. Purpose that cannot survive pressure would never be trusted with influence. One reason destiny cannot be erased is because it is not sustained by human strength alone. While cooperation matters, destiny is ultimately upheld by divine intent. This does not eliminate personal responsibility, but it provides security. If destiny were dependent solely on flawless execution, no one would fulfill it. Preservation of destiny allows room for learning, correction, and growth. Okay, interruption becomes part of development rather than proof of failure. Interruption also reveals what aspects of destiny are essential and which are superficial. When expression is interrupted, the core assignment remains while methods, timelines, and appearances may change. This distinction is critical. Many people mourn the loss of a specific path, role, or opportunity, assuming that destiny has been lost, when in reality only a particular expression has ended. Destiny is adaptable in form but fixed in essence. Fear is one of the most common causes of interruption. Fear convinces people to retreat from risk, visibility, or responsibility. This retreat creates delay, but delay does not equal deletion. Fear pauses progress. Come, but courage can resume it. However, prolonged fear can create patterns that become comfortable, making return more difficult. This difficulty is often mistaken for impossibility. Come. Another cause of interruption is offense. Unresolved offense distorts perception. It causes people to interpret correction as rejection and delay as disapproval. Offense shifts focus from purpose to pain. While offense can interrupt destiny, it cannot erase it. It only diverts attention. Once offense is addressed, clarity returns and direction can be recovered. There are also interruptions caused by premature exposure. Sometimes destiny expression begins before capacity is fully developed. This can lead to failure, embarrassment, or withdrawal. In such cases, interruption is protective. It prevents further damage while development continues privately. This type of interruption feels like loss, but is actually preservation. Destiny is also interrupted when identity becomes confused. When people define themselves by results rather than by purpose, any setback feels like personal invalidation. This emotional response can cause withdrawal and disengagement. Identity confusion does not cancel destiny, but it delays participation. Reestablishing identity restores momentum. Another important aspect is that destiny interruption often affects timing more than outcome. The sequence may change, the pace may slow, the route may shift, but the destination remains reachable. This is why people sometimes fulfill destiny later than expected or through unconventional paths. What matters is arrival, not adherence to an imagined schedule. Interruption also exposes dependence. Some interruptions occur because reliance shifted from purpose to process. When the process failed, confidence collapsed. This reveals misplaced trust. Destiny requires trust in origin, not in method. Methods change. Origin remains. When trust is restored to origin, participation resumes. There are seasons when destiny seems silent. Silence can feel like abandonment. However, silence often indicates recalibration. During silence, internal alignment is adjusted, motives are refined, and capacity is increased. Silence interrupts activity but deepens readiness. When expression resumes, it does so with greater stability. Destiny cannot be erased because erasure would require authority greater than the one that authored it. Circumstances do not possess that authority. Mistakes do not possess that authority. Even disobedience does not automatically possess that authority, though it carries consequences. Restoration exists because destiny persists beyond interruption. Understanding this truth prevents despair. It reframes failure as feedback rather than finality. It encourages return rather than resignation. It allows people to re-engage without shame. When interruption is recognized as temporary rather than terminal, hope remains functional. Many people remain stuck not because destiny is gone, but because they believe it is. This belief becomes a self-imposed barrier. When belief shifts, movement becomes possible. Direction becomes clearer. Courage resurfaces. Decisions change. Destiny is resilient. It survives pauses, wounds, detours, and seasons of obscurity. It waits. It does not expire because time passes or because progress slows. It remains intact, ready to respond when alignment returns and participation resumes. The role of conscious sacrifice and separation in destiny restoration is rooted in the principle that meaningful alignment often requires deliberate withdrawal from comfort, familiarity, and distraction. Restoration does not occur casually because misalignment rarely develops casually. Over time, subtle compromises, divided attention, and unchecked habits weaken focus and clarity. Separation interrupts these patterns. It creates space for recalibration. Sacrifice gives weight to intention by proving that the desire for restoration is stronger than the attachment to convenience. Conscious sacrifice is different from suffering. It is intentional, not accidental. It is chosen, not imposed. When a person sacrifices consciously, they are not merely giving something up, they are prioritizing something greater. This prioritization sends a clear signal internally and spiritually. It clarifies value. What is value governs behavior. When destiny is valued above comfort, behavior adjusts naturally. Restoration often begins with this shift in valuation. Separation creates clarity. Continuous exposure to noise, opinion, expectation, and pressure dulls discernment. Separation reduces this interference. It is not rejection of people or responsibility, that it is temporary withdrawal for alignment. Even brief seasons of separation can reset perception. They allow the heart to hear without distortion. Many people struggle to discern direction, not because guidance is absent, but because input is excessive. Separation filters input. Sacrifice also exposes attachment. What is difficult to release often reveals what has gained influence beyond its rightful place. These attachments may not be inherently wrong, but they may be misplaced. Destiny restoration requires reordered priorities. Sacrifice reveals whether certain habits, relationships, or comforts have quietly become substitutes for purpose. Letting go restores order. Another dimension of sacrifice is humility. Sacrifice acknowledges limitation. It admits that current patterns are insufficient. This humility invites correction. Correction is essential for restoration. Pride resists separation because pride prefers familiarity. Humility embraces separation because humility values alignment more than appearance. Restoration flows more easily where humility creates openness. Separation also confronts dependency. Many delays in destiny are sustained by unhealthy dependencies, whether emotional, relational, or habitual. Separation weakens these dependencies by interrupting reinforcement. Without constant exposure, their influence diminishes. This weakening creates room for new patterns to form. Restoration often requires new patterns because old ones supported misalignment. Conscious sacrifice strengthens discipline. Discipline is sustained alignment, not momentary effort. The sacrifice trains the will to respond to conviction rather than impulse. This training has long-term effects. It increases resilience. It sharpens focus. It stabilizes emotion. Restoration is fragile without discipline. What is restored without discipline is easily lost again. Separation also purifies motive. In isolation, motivation becomes clearer. Without an audience, intention is exposed. Some pursuits lose their appeal when external validation is removed. Others gain strength. This purification is critical. Come, destiny responds to pure intention. When motive is mixed, progress is unstable. Separation simplifies motivation. Another aspect of conscious sacrifice is trust. Sacrifice requires trusting that what is surrendered will not be needed to survive. This trust challenges fear. Fear clings. Trust releases. Restoration often stalls because fear resists necessary release. Sacrifice confronts fear directly. Each act of surrender weakens fear's grip. Separation also restores sensitivity. Overexposure numbs perception. Constant stimulation dulls awareness. Separation recalibrates sensitivity by reducing stimulation. This recalibration enhances discernment. The discernment is essential for restoration because it prevents repetition of past errors. Without discernment, restored momentum can lead back into old traps. There is also a timing aspect to separation. Separation creates margin. Margin allows reflection. Reflection reveals patterns. Patterns reveal causes. Addressing causes leads to lasting change. Without margin, life remains reactive. Restoration requires proactive adjustment. Separation creates the conditions for proactive change. Conscious sacrifice also reestablishes authority. Authority weakens when discipline erodes. Sacrifice restores authority by reasserting control over appetite, schedule, calm, and attention. This internal authority precedes external influence. When a person regains authority over themselves, they are better positioned to steward restored opportunity. Separation does not isolate permanently. It prepares for re-engagement. Healthy separation is temporary and purposeful. It is designed to strengthen participation, not eliminate it. When restoration occurs, re-entry into relationships and responsibilities is more intentional. Boundaries are clearer. Choices are wiser. Another important aspect is that sacrifice often precedes acceleration. What is released creates space. Space allows increase. Increase feels sudden because preparation was hidden. Sacrifice is rarely celebrated publicly, but its results are often visible later. Calm. Restoration that appears sudden is often the outcome of quiet separation. Conscious sacrifice also realigns desire. Desire becomes focused. Scattered desire produces scattered results. Focused desire produces momentum. Separation concentrates desire by removing competing interests. This concentration increases effectiveness. Restoration responds to concentrated desire. Finally, separation reminds the heart that destiny is not sustained by constant activity, but by alignment. Activity can hide misalignment. Separation exposes it. Exposure allows correction. Correction allows restoration. The sacrifice and separation do not create destiny. They remove obstacles to its expression, clearing the way for purpose to regain clarity, direction, and strength. Come, the power of prophetic prayer in accelerating destiny restoration lies in its ability to realign human expression with divine intention through spoken agreement. Prophetic prayer is not merely emotional speech or repetitive request. It is alignment-driven utterance. It functions by bringing language, belief, and expectation into harmony with purpose. When alignment is restored at the level of speech, movement follows. Many delays in destiny are sustained not by external resistance, but by internal contradiction. Come, where desire and declaration are misaligned, prophetic prayer accelerates restoration by addressing timing. Destiny often involves appointed moments. When those moments are missed or delayed, prayer becomes a means of recalibration. Through prayer, sensitivity to timing is restored. This sensitivity enables recognition of opportunity. Opportunities missed due to dull discernment are often recovered when clarity returns. Prophetic prayer sharpens this clarity. Another dimension of prophetic prayer is authority. Words spoken with conviction carry influence. This influence is not psychological alone, it is directional. Spoken alignment reinforces internal resolve. Resolve alters decision making. Decision making alters trajectory. Trajectory determines outcome. Prophetic prayer compresses this sequence by addressing alignment at the root. Prophetic prayer also dismantles internal resistance. Internal resistance includes fear, doubt, shame, and discouragement. That these elements silently oppose progress. When prayer confronts them verbally, their influence weakens. Silence allows them to grow unchecked. Speech exposes and challenges them. Prophetic prayer gives voice to conviction before evidence appears. Acceleration occurs because prophetic prayer shortens cycles of hesitation. Many people linger at the edge of action, waiting for certainty. Prophetic prayer shifts focus from certainty to obedience. The obedience moves forward despite incomplete information. Movement invites confirmation. Confirmation reinforces confidence. This cycle moves faster than analysis alone. Prophetic prayer also restores memory. Many people forget original direction due to prolonged struggle. Prayer recalls foundational convictions. This recall reestablishes continuity. Destiny restoration requires remembering what was first revealed. Forgetfulness leads to reinvention, which often produces confusion. Prophetic prayer reconnects present posture with original intent. Another critical function of prophetic prayer is resistance to distraction. Distraction diffuses energy. Their diffused energy slows progress. Prophetic prayer recenters focus. It gathers attention around purpose. This gathering increases effectiveness. Focused effort produces quicker results than scattered effort. Prophetic prayer also influences endurance. Restoration is not always instant. Acceleration does not eliminate process. It optimizes it. Prophetic prayer strengthens endurance by reinforcing hope. Hope sustains effort. Sustained effort produces momentum. Momentum carries progress through resistance. Without hope, effort collapses prematurely. There is also a refining aspect. Prophetic prayer exposes inconsistency. When declarations do not match behavior, tension arises. This tension invites adjustment. Adjustment restores integrity. Integrity strengthens impact. Restoration accelerates where integrity is maintained. Prophetic prayer aligns emotion. Emotional misalignment can sabotage progress. Fear can paralyze. Anger can misdirect. Discouragement can exhaust. Prayer processes emotion through alignment. It does not suppress emotion, it orders it. Ordered emotion supports purposeful action. Another aspect is that prophetic prayer redefines narrative. Many people are trapped by negative self-narratives formed through failure or delay. These narratives shape expectation. Expectation influences behavior. Prophetic prayer replaces limiting narratives with purposeful ones. This replacement changes expectation. Changed expectation alters engagement with opportunity. Their prophetic prayer also strengthens patience without promoting passivity. It clarifies what to pursue and what to release. This clarity prevents wasted effort. Wasted effort delays restoration. Focused pursuit accelerates it. Acceleration also occurs because prophetic prayer aligns community. Spoken conviction attracts alignment from others. When people hear clarity, they respond accordingly. Misalignment repels support. Alignment attracts it. Support increases capacity. Increased capacity improves execution. Prophetic prayer also addresses unseen resistance. Not all resistance is visible or logical. Some opposition manifests as repeated delay, confusion, or exhaustion. Prayer confronts these patterns at their root. When resistance weakens, progress becomes smoother. Another important dimension is consistency. Prophetic prayer builds rhythm. Rhythm stabilizes practice. Stable practice produces reliable outcomes. Restoration is unreliable without consistency. Prayer creates consistency by reinforcing commitment. Prophetic prayer also restores courage. Courage is necessary for re-entry. Restoration often requires stepping back into spaces previously associated with pain or failure. Courage enables this re-entry. Prayer cultivates courage by reinforcing identity beyond experience. Finally, prophetic prayer accelerates destiny restoration by aligning belief, speech, and action into a single direction. When these elements agree, friction reduces. Reduced friction increases speed. Speed does not compromise depth when alignment is present. Prophetic prayer does not force destiny, it cooperates with it, removing resistance and restoring flow. The necessity of divine timing and human obedience in the process of full destiny restoration is anchored in the understanding that restoration is not only about desire, but about alignment with order. Timing governs access, obedience governs participation. Destiny unfolds where these two intersect. Many people want restoration without waiting, and others wait without obeying. Both positions create imbalance. Restoration requires synchronized movement where action responds accurately to timing rather than impulse. Divine timing is often misunderstood as delay. In reality, timing is precision. It determines readiness, exposure, and sustainability. Premature restoration can be more damaging than delay because it places responsibility on a structure that cannot yet support it. Timing protects destiny from collapse. What arrives before capacity overwhelms. What arrives after obedience strengthens. Human obedience is the mechanism through which timing becomes actionable. Timing without obedience remains theoretical. Obedience translates instruction into motion. Motion positions the individual within the window of opportunity. Missed opportunities often result not from ignorance, but from selective obedience. Partial obedience creates partial alignment. Partial alignment produces inconsistent results. Obedience is rarely dramatic. It often involves small, repeated decisions that seem insignificant in isolation. These decisions shape trajectory. Consistency in obedience builds alignment over time. Sudden acts of obedience cannot compensate for prolonged neglect. Restoration responds to patterns, not moments. Divine timing also governs sequence. Sequence matters because certain experiences prepare for others. Skipping sequence creates instability. Obedience honors sequence by respecting order. When people attempt to bypass preparation, they encounter resistance that feels external but is structural. The resistance is not rejection, it is correction. Timing also relates to exposure. Destiny restoration often involves increased visibility, responsibility, or influence. Exposure before internal alignment creates vulnerability. Timing ensures that exposure matches maturity. Obedience develops maturity through submission to process. Submission refines character. Character stabilizes influence. Another dimension of timing is convergence. Restoration often requires alignment of multiple factors. These factors include people, resources, environment, and internal readiness. Obedience positions the individual correctly, while timing orchestrates convergence. Attempting to force convergence through manipulation produces fragile outcomes. Obedience also sharpens discernment. As obedience becomes habitual, sensitivity to timing increases. Discernment improves because attention is disciplined. Distraction dulls timing awareness. Obedience reduces distraction by prioritizing instruction over preference. This prioritization enhances accuracy. Divine timing often operates invisibly. Progress may not be immediately measurable. This invisibility tests trust. Obedience during invisible seasons strengthens trust. Trust stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion supports patience. Patience preserves alignment during waiting. Waiting is not inactivity. Waiting is restrained obedience. It is the discipline of not acting prematurely. This restraint is as important as action. Many destinies are delayed not because people fail to act, but because they act too soon. Obedience includes knowing when not to move. Another aspect is that timing recalibrates expectation. Expectation shapes response. When expectation is misaligned, disappointment arises. Disappointment can lead to disengagement. Understanding timing reframes disappointment as preparation. This reframing preserves motivation. Human obedience also involves surrendering control. Control seeks predictability. Timing requires flexibility. Obedience accepts uncertainty without resistance. This acceptance allows adjustment. Adjustment maintains alignment as conditions change. Timing also governs restoration pace. Not all restoration is immediate. Some aspects are restored gradually to ensure integration. Obedience sustains engagement during gradual restoration. Impatience often leads to abandonment just before completion. There is also a relational dimension. Destiny restoration often involves reconciliation, repositioning, or reassignment. Timing determines when relationships can be restored without reopening wounds. Obedience governs behavior within these relationships. Misalignment in either delays progress. Divine timing also exposes motive. Delays reveal why restoration is desired. If desire is rooted in validation rather than purpose, impatience increases. Obedience refines motive by submitting desire to instruction. Refined motive stabilizes restoration. Another important aspect is endurance. Endurance is required because timing may extend beyond personal comfort. Obedience sustains endurance by anchoring effort in trust rather than emotion. Emotion fluctuates. Trust stabilizes. Timing also protects against comparison. Comparison creates pressure to rush. Rushing violates sequence. Obedience resists comparison by remaining anchored in instruction. This resistance preserves integrity. Finally, destiny restoration reaches fullness when obedience aligns consistently with timing, producing sustainable progress. Sustainable progress does not require constant correction. It flows naturally because alignment reduces friction. Where timing is honored and obedience is practiced, restoration unfolds with clarity, strength, and continuity. Destiny restoration is not a mystical accident or an emotional moment. It is a deliberate alignment of belief, posture, timing, and response. What has been emphasized throughout this message is that destiny is resilient, but participation in it requires responsibility. Interruptions may delay expression, but they never cancel assignment. Restoration begins when awareness replaces confusion and conviction replaces despair. Prayer becomes powerful when it is not used as an escape from responsibility, but as a tool for realignment. Night seasons, moments of separation, and periods of waiting are not signs of abandonment. They are environments of recalibration. When sacrifice is embraced, distractions lose power. When prophetic prayer is spoken with understanding, internal resistance collapses. When obedience is practiced with patience, timing opens doors that effort alone cannot force. Nothing restores destiny sustainably without alignment. And alignment is always intentional. The promise of restoration is not rooted in urgency, but in order. Come. First, what returns without preparation will not last. What arrives through obedience is preserved. Every instruction honored, every sacrifice made. Come. Every prayer aligned with purpose contributes to momentum that cannot be stopped by previous failure or present delay. Come. Destiny responds to agreement, not desperation. Restoration is not about reclaiming the past. It is about stepping accurately into what was always intended. When belief, speech, discipline, and timing agree, the destiny does not struggle to emerge, it flows. And when alignment is complete, restoration is no longer something being awaited. It becomes something being walked into.